This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news for you. Um, Supposedly, Canelo Alvarez is healing properly from his hand fracture against Liam Smith, Mr. Beefy, where he knocked him out in the ninth round. Um, Supposedly, his promoters, which is Oscar De La Hoya and co-promoted by Bernard Hopkins, states that he should be back in the ring by February. Well, by an opponent, by the way, that he has an excellent chance of beating. First of all, Canelo's a good fighter, but I'm tired of people saying how good he is. I'm tired of the Mexican fans and the other fans of Canelo Alvarez jumping on his coattail saying that he's like one of the best. Yeah, he's the highest paid because there's nobody else left. You know what I mean? And then Manny still beat him out. So he's still not the highest paid. He's the second highest paid. Anyway, I don't see Canelo fighting in February. I just don't see it. If he fights in February, I'll be surprised. Okay, but I don't see him fighting in February simply because Mayweather didn't fight in February, and then May, and then another date this year. I don't see him fighting. I see him following the same blueprint as Mayweather. Because if you don't acknowledge it or not, Mayweather has, a lot of people has followed Mayweather's diva ways. You know what I mean? And when I say diva, I mean the things that, certain people do because their ego has got so big. Look at Cotto. Look at Canelo. Look at the comparisons. Cotto wouldn't do this. Cotto wanted Juan Manuel Marquez to come up to 154, which Marquez is not a 154-pound fighter. He's not. You know what I mean? And that fight never got made. Therefore, he never fought for a year, but that's okay because he got $15 million to fight Canelo Alvarez, losing a unanimous decision, right? So I don't really see Canelo doing anything different. I think that he's done that. Look at this negotiations with Golovkin. Hey, take the money or else. What does that sound like? Mayweather, when he pulled that shit on Manny Pacquiao 4 or 5 years ago. Remember that? The $40 million that he gave him, and he said, take this money or else, right? So eventually they ended up fighting, and Manny Pacquiao made $150 million, and he made damn near 300, whatever. But the whole thing is, it started with a diva mindset. I call it the Floyd Mayweather money disease. You know what I'm saying? It's the Floyd Mayweather disease. He fights fighters and they become infected with his fucking diva bullshit. It's like, look at Canelo. He's telling Golovkin all this. You better take the $10 million, right? Take the $10 million. And Golovkin's the champion at that weight class. Just because he tapped in and he got the WBC belt from a non-middleweight fighter, so he fought for a middleweight belt without even fighting a middleweight, technically, because, again, of his diva ways, that should have been at 160. But Cotto's a little guy, I get it. Now he tried to misconstrue that and twist that shit around to get Golovkin to come to 155 because Cotto came to 155 because Cotto's accolades and pull. Well, that's bullshit. He shouldn't have done that anyway. But that all comes from him when he stepped his ass in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. He got infected with the Floyd Mayweather disease. It is a disease. It's a diva disease. I'm talking about legacy standards. I'm not talking about money standards. That's a whole different category. Legacy standards is when the best fight the best. Regardless, win, lose, or draw, you fight the best. The marketability is, again, about money. I'm not talking about that, right? So Floyd did everything he did on money, but you can't forget that Floyd Mayweather was Pretty Boy Floyd. And Pretty Boy Floyd, that was my boy. He kicked much ass. He did what he needed to do. Look what he did to Gotti. Look what he did to Diego Corrales. Look what he did to Daryl Chop Chop Corley. Look what he did to Zab Judah. Look what he did to so many different fighters, man, that he just took them to school and he whooped ass in the meantime. Yes, he was overlooked by Bob Arum. Bob Arum's trying to do the same thing to Guillermo Rigondeaux. That's why Guillermo, he doesn't want Guillermo going in there. He doesn't want Rigo going in there with Lomachenko because he doesn't like Guillermo. Because he sees Guillermo as a threat, just like he saw Floyd as a threat eventually. But now he can foresee how Rigondeaux could be. Not saying Lomachenko wouldn't beat him. However, it would be a better fight than fucking Walters or Gary, Gary Russell Jr. It would be a better fight than those. That's why he doesn't want that fight. And people say, oh, well, it'd be Bob Arum says it'll be a shit fight. It won't be a shit fight. It'll be a very technical boxing match. You know what I mean? If you call that a shit fight, you don't know nothing about boxing. You're a casual. You're used to watching fights and not boxing. That's the problem. A lot of these fucking fans, they come on here and I want to see a fight. I want to see a fight. You want to see a fight? Go to a fucking drunk ass club and watch motherfuckers brawl and hope you don't get your head knocked off by a bottle, or one of them drunk ass people coming out of there. They hauling out of there. That's what you need to do. So, but back to boxing. Rigondeaux, man, Rigondeaux can do a lot, and he can move. He's not a stationary opponent. And Lomachenko said it himself against Nicholas Walters. He wasn't really bragging on that shit. He just saw that Nicholas Walters wasn't doing shit. He was a stationary target, and he wasn't really fucking doing nothing to try to win the fight. In the second round of the fight, he was fucking throwing. He was countering. He was trying to counter over the jab with his right, but he noticed that he was just throwing it out there. He didn't have any power on it because Lomachenko was a lot faster than he was, and it made Lomachenko a lot faster because he was punching from angles that Walters couldn't punch from. So he was just throwing it out there. You know what I mean? So no, that won't be a Rigondeaux fight. Rigondeaux's a southpaw. And if he thinks he's going to go around there and do those pity punch, because he throws a lot of smaller shots in different speeds and different power strengths to create the big punch that he's trying to set up. So he creates those openings by offense, by throwing punches. Kind of like Manny Pacquiao used to do. But Manny Pacquiao was more of a back and forth fighter. He didn't, do a lot of pivot moves and shit. You know what I mean? Like Lomachenko's doing. Lomachenko's doing shit, He's doing some different shit, you know what I mean? Manny Pacquiao's kind of, he has that irky jerky, you know what I mean? That stutter step, back and forth, you know what I mean? Back and forth, forth and back, and that will fucking irritate any fighter that's trying to fight him, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, but I don't really see Canelo, back to him, I don't see him doing that because he has the Mayweather diva fucking disease. That's it. He has the Mayweather diva disease, and it's like, you know what? I'm not going to fight in February. So, guys, don't be surprised if that shit don't happen. He's not going to fight in February. I don't see him fighting in February, because Mayweather didn't fight in February, and everyone wants to do what Mayweather does because everybody wants fucking Mayweather's money. Nobody wants to be themselves no more. Everybody wants to fucking be Mayweather. You know what I mean? Everybody. Adrian Broner, Cotto in his own way, Canelo in his own way. You know what I mean? A lot of these fighters, you know what I'm saying? A lot. And it goes down. It trickles down. It's a trickle-down effect because he fucked up legacy forever. Floyd Mayweather Jr. did. A lot of people that are true hardcore boxing fans remember how he's nothing like Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker fought the best at the right time. He might have got fucked. He might have got the wrong decision. He whooped the fuck out of Julio Cesar Chavez. They called that shit a draw. He beat De La Hoya and outpointed that motherfucker for more than 60 points. They called he lost a split decision, right? He did that to a lot of fighters. He got his ass whooped by Trinidad, but by the time he fought Trinidad, he was already, he was too far down the line. You know what I mean? He was doing coke and shit, and a lot of that came from, him, the resentment of the sport and the bullshit politics of the game. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's what happened to Pernell Whitaker. But Pernell Whitaker was a far more better fucking fighter, like for legacy purposes, than Floyd Mayweather will ever be. Floyd, Pretty Boy Floyd died in 06, bro. Maybe 07. You know what I mean? He died in 06. When he left Bob Arum, and the thing is, it was like a fucking worm turning in cocooning and turning into a butterfly. But instead of that fucking butterfly, it was a goddamn dragon. You know what I'm saying? Because when he came out, it was all about money. It was like after Don King lost fucking Muhammad Ali and he got pissed off and his son came in. If you saw the HBO movie, you know what I mean? He turned into fucking Satan. He was more than that slick talking bullshit promoter. He turned into this evil, malicious motherfucker that was all about me. Right? That was Floyd. Floyd did that shit. You know, Floyd knew, fuck De La Hoya. Fuck Sugar Shane Mosley. Fuck Arturo Gatti. You know what I mean? Fuck Felix Trinidad. Fuck Roy Jones. You know, I'm my own entity, and I'm going to prove it. Because all those guys that I just mentioned were overshadowing him. They were overpowering him. They were, you know, they had more pull than him. Nobody was really looking at Floyd Mayweather Jr. He was that 130-pound fighter that never been defeated, which it was a gang of them motherfuckers at one point. You know what I mean? And he was a force to be reckoned with. But you had all these other fighters, and it was just this melting pot of fighters that came from 135 to 140 to 147 to 154. You know what I mean? So you had all these guys up there, and then he kind of just got smothered in the success of other fighters. And it made him fucking bitter. I think that what made him fucking Money Mayweather. Floyd, look, man, whoever knows Floyd personally, they know Floyd is not that type of fucking person. He might be an asshole because he's practiced so long of being an asshole outside the ring and stuff like that. But like, let's say if you take an interview for him and Larry Merchant in fucking 98, 99, 2000, okay? You can see gradually that he got a little bit more irritated as those interviews went on. As those interviews went on, he got a little bit more like, you know what, fuck this shit, and fuck Larry Merchant, and fuck HBO. You know what I mean? But that happened because of the disappreciation that they had for Floyd Mayweather. He turned into that money grabbing fucking $1 million man motherfucker. You know what I mean? The asshole. He turned into that dude. He turned into that version of that dude. But what sadly is he did that for this particular reason. He was overshadowed by all these other fucking great fighters, bro. You know, and he hated that. He wanted to be acknowledged, you know, and he just retired in fucking 2015, you know? So, saying that, all these other fighters that he's fought has picked up a little piece of that fucking resentment, that spirit, that, you know what I'm saying, that shit, that fucking arrogance, that resentment. They've picked that up. Cotto's picked it up. Canelo's picked it up. And sadly to say, these guys are fucking the pinnacle of the sport. Well, Cotto, I don't know what to say about Cotto, but Canelo definitely is. Why do you think Cotto does the shit that he does now? Because he took that ass whooping, he got in the ring with Floyd Mayweather, and he got infected with the motherfucking Floyd Money Mayweather disease. That's what he did. And that's what it is. So, because of that, to say all that to say this, don't expect him to fucking fight in February. He ain't fighting in February. He's fighting in May. Okay? He's going to fight in May, and he's going to fight in September. The only thing that can foil his plans for fighting in May is Floyd coming back and fighting Manny Pacquiao for the second time. But Floyd's not coming back. I hope he doesn't. You know what I mean? But, you know, money is a motherfucker. See, money versus legacy is bullshit. Legacy versus legacy is legacy. You know? So if he's all about money, it's all going to be bullshit, and it's going to bite him in the ass one day because he'll get his ass in there. But if he comes back, he's going to fight somebody that he has a good chance of beating, right? Floyd is not going to come back and fight somebody like Erislandy Lara. I mean, I haven't saw Lara fight. Matter of fact, I don't even know when that motherfucker's fighting, you know, and he's had a couple bad decisions himself. It's just a good thing that, you know, he hasn't been that person like Pernell Whitaker that has let the boxing game get, you know, steer him towards drugs and other problems, because I think that's what happened to Pernell Whitaker, you know, and I compare him to Erislandy Lara, two skilled fighters, two southpaws, two black men of the sport, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, damn, you know, in Lara, you know, he could be a good fighter. I mean, he is a good fighter, but, you know, let's see what happens with him. You know, just hope he doesn't. And it looks like he's got the fucking Mayweather disease too. Fighting guys, you know, he gets $1 million purses. He ain't worried about money, so he can fight technically anybody. You know, he ain't went up to 160, has he? So you can't get too pissed off about Canelo Alvarez, even though Canelo Alvarez is a bigger guy and he's a younger guy. You know what I mean? They're about 5 years difference, age difference or whatever. But I tell you, man, it's one of those things where you got to see what happens, and you have to compare these fights, and you have to compare these guys to Floyd Mayweather. And if you look at what Floyd Mayweather did versus what all these other fighters are doing, it's the same shit. It's the same shit, bro. I mean, it is. It's the same shit. And people just got to realize the Mayweather legacy-wise has fucking destroyed boxing. Because you no longer have that person that wants to fight the best. And if he does want to fight the best, he wants to wait a while. Look at Canelo. Canelo wants to wait until fucking Golovkin gets old to fight him. He wants to wait to the end of next year. Hopefully by the age of 35, Golovkin will be ripe enough for him to beat that ass. So he'll be a little sharper, a little quicker, because Canelo is actually getting better. You know, he's a young dude. He fought Canelo when he fought Mayweather. He was young. He was like a baby, but I mean, he had 40 fights. But still, those 40 fights, you know, like Julio Cesar Chavez, a lot of them fights was fucking garbage. It's some bullshit. They just stranged this guy along and he whooped all these unexperienced ass Mexican fighters. You know what I'm saying? If you can look at the box recs, you can look at the Wikipedia records, you can see a lot of them fighters before he came to the States wasn't shit. They wasn't shit. He started whooping American fighters and other fighters from other countries that were on that level. It did show that he was a good fighter. Now, those fighters before that, wasn't shit. You know what I mean? They were just, hopefully, you got some decent money fighting them. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really see that shit happening. But until then, man, I feel that he'll fight 2 times a week. Cotto should just fucking retire. His fucking skin is too thin. If he didn't want to fight Marquez, I personally don't want to see that motherfucker no more. You know what I mean? Fucking lay in bed with a goddamn fat ass best friend, whatever. Whatever the fuck, dude. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But, don't come back to the sport of boxing. For all these other fighters, don't follow Floyd Mayweather for legacy. Do exactly what that motherfucker did before he left Bob Arum. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people want to be like him now. Like, you can't be like that motherfucker now because he's done the shit that other people didn't do. That the mainstream media forgets to tell your ass that, yeah, this is the same motherfucker that kicked all types of ass, that ain't never whooped, that ain't never got dropped, except for just Zab Judah. Zab Judah did drop him, but it wasn't, like a technical knockdown, right? It was an official knockdown. So these motherfuckers that trying to be like Floyd Mayweather, stop. Don't get infected with the disease. But this is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and you've been counterpunched. Peace.